Hey, McCartney fans. Welcome to episode 148 of Two Legs, a Paul McCartney podcast. I can't believe we're almost to 150, Andy. This is getting crazy. I mean,
Almost.
it's just, yeah. But, anyways, we are a Paul McCartney talk show mainly dealing with the solo career of Paul McCartney. I'm one of your two co hosts, Tom Hunyadi, and you may know me from my other show, Talk More Talk, a solo Beatles video cast where myself and my three co hosts talk all things solo Beatles and some Beatles from time to time. And I'm joined by my partner in crime, my backwards traveler, Andy Nichols. Andy, what's going on, my friend?
Yeah, well, it's only natural to talk Beatles. I mean, there's just a little bit of a film coming out in a couple
Right,
of
just a
days.
little
Just
bit.
a small film that you might have to just talk about just a
Right,
little bit.
just a little bit. We might
Um,
actually be going live after each episode too, right?
I heard a podcast that might be
Yeah,
doing that.
right.
I'm doing well, Tom. Thanks for having me on, and welcome to have our guest here to talk women and wives again.
Yes, absolutely. This is part two of our series called Women and Wives, and I am super excited to have back Natalia Cardenas once again to help us with this episode because she is the host of the wonderful podcast called She Loves You. And she just dropped a new episode, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But Natalia, how are you?
I'm doing good, guys. Thanks for having me again. I'm so excited.
Yes. But yeah, it's a great time. We're going to talk about four women on this episode, and some good, some bad. But
Right, right.
but before we get to, yeah, before we get to that, Andy, last night when this is going to get posted, what on the 27th,
Right,
but today is what, the 21st or 22nd? What's
Yeah, the
today
20,
actually?
21st.
21st.
21st. So the 20th, last night you saw Bob Dylan.
I did. I got to see Bob Dylan in New York last night
Mm,
at the Beacon Theater. He's doing 3 nights there. And I saw him in 2019, and
right.
he played for an hour and 45 minutes. He's
Wow.
80. He's 80 years old. He did 17 or 18 songs, and his voice sounded better this time than
Right.
it did in 2019.
Oh,
It was great. He played a lot of material from his new album, Rough and Rowdy Ways,
right.
and it was great. A lot of people go to the show and they want to hear like the hits, and I'm like, look, this isn't McCartney or Elton John. He
I
doesn't
was
do
about
that.
to ask that. I was about to ask, does he do any oldies? But I doubt it. Yeah,
He
no.
he does he,
Sometimes.
he does a couple oldies, but he doesn't do them in the way that you know them. He
Yeah.
does, he his songs now have kind of like a jazzy bluesy feel to them. So
Okay.
he played a couple of like classics, but they were played in that
A
arrangement.
different
So
style.
Okay.
it was awesome. I've seen him twice now, and it was just awesome to see an
Right.
icon in his roots, kind of back in New York. It was great. So,
Definitely.
And you
you know,
Definitely.
were
and
yeah, and you were a fan of that new album, right?
very much so. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think the new album is incredible, and it was just a joy to. Again, I've been back to a couple concerts now post COVID. That was the first big name act though, where everybody kind of went, no masks.
Right.
I mean, it was great. It was almost like, wow, this is how it was to go back to.
Yeah.
So it was great to go see him again. And yeah, life is
Very
moving
cool.
on, and Bob is still with us and going strong.
Thank
Yes,
goodness.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just amazing that a lot of these acts are still going,
Yeah.
and they're still playing by their rules. I mean, Dylan has never been one to, you know, you know, played all the hits, to the crowd. I mean, he does things his way. Neil Young in a way is a lot like that too. I mean, there's times where he'll do a set and he'll just maybe play one or two songs that people know, and
Right.
that's it. So
Unlike our boy who plays what
well,
everybody
cater,
wants to.
yeah, yeah, he
He's like
caters to the
3 hours,
fans.
all the
Yeah,
hits.
Yes.
all the
Elton,
hits.
Elton, Billy,
Right,
those they give the people what they want, and
right.
that's just a different kind of entertainer. So
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And now you also got something in the mail from the UK, right?
I did. I got the UK version of the lyrics,
Yeah.
which is I'm gonna keep sealed. This is what's such a better cover than that green. Oh my
It's
god.
Yeah.
so much nicer.
I
Yes.
mean,
So much.
this is okay, but it's like, ugh,
It's so bland. I don't know what it is. Like, I'm gonna be honest. I
Yeah.
I I'm an English major, and like I the publishing company itself, they are just terrible with American covers. I don't know what it is
Mm,
with American covers. They
good
Why?
suck.
points.
They
Good
suck.
point.
I don't know why. Like, I have every book I get, I buy it and I'm like, oh, this is a cool cover, and then I see the UK covers.
UK cover, and it's 10 times
And it's
better.
way
Better.
better.
I
And
don't know, man. England's
yeah,
doing something right always.
Mm.
But it was not 10. It was not. It was. I think the U.S. version was like $60, and this
And
was only about 80 from the
okay,
UK. So it wasn't like an astronomical difference in price to get a far better cover. So
right.
this out go on the shelf and stay sealed.
Right. So the only difference from that one, besides the covers, you don't get the McCartney
Yeah.
profile
No,
on the book,
on the
spine.
books. Yeah,
Yeah.
on the spine. You don't get the face there from the Ram sessions on there. But yeah, a nice package.
Oh,
Cool.
it's so pretty.
Excellent. Yeah. Myself yesterday, I hit the record store, and
I
Andy,
don't believe it.
from being here, I mean, you've seen just a taste of the record stores that we have out here in Arizona. But I went to a particular one, and
One that you brought me to, or no, or another one.
I think I took it. It's called Record High. Maybe we took you there. I think we did. But the McCartney 2 was the only archive on vinyl that I didn't have
Mhm.
yet. Came out in 2011. I wasn't collecting vinyl at that time, so you can see it right behind me. I kind of spun it yesterday, and it sounded great. So I found that there, and I found a bunch of 12-inch singles, which I was looking for, and I got the Hope of Deliverance and Deliverance. These were the remixes, the Steve Anderson remixes. So you got that. Then you got the this version of Figure of Eight.
What's the B
This
side? Oh, Ua
um
Sole, another version of
yeah,
that.
but those are on side one. On the other side is an etching.
Oh, the etching.
So
Okay, right.
yeah, so you can see right there on the
The etch
etch
disc.
disc.
Yep.
Yeah, and then you got the ebony and ivory 12-inch
Mhm.
as well. Now this has on the B side, it has Rain Clouds, and it has the solo version of ebony and ivory on there with obviously just Paul doing that. And then the Big Daddy,
Oh
the one that I
yeah.
finally got. See, this was the last thing I needed on any physical format, and this is called Twin Freaks.
Oh baby.
This was 2003.
5.
Was it 5 or 3?
No, I don't think it was 5 or maybe 4.
Yeah, yeah, my bad. Yeah, it's 2005,
Yeah.
and this was the last thing I needed on a physical format. So very, very excited because I think it was only pressed on CD as a promo, um,
Mhm.
to be dished out to radios or whatever. But yeah, only vinyl for the most part. Super excited to have that
Still,
because we'll be.
you haven't opened that yet, Tom?
No, I haven't opened it yet. But super excited about doing a show on that in January with the great Kiddo Tool. So that'll be
Um,
yeah.
Wow.
That'll be great. Yeah. So, are you a collector in any way, Natalia? I mean, do you?
I do have vinyl. I have a mix of like the vinyl you can get at Target, and then I actually
Right.
have like real,
Right.
vintage
Authentic,
vinyl.
authentic
Right.
Authentic,
vintage vinyl.
yeah,
Yeah.
vintage. I shouldn't even say that. It's authentic. Yes.
Right.
Um, I got a Fleetwood Mac Rumors album.
You and
Um,
everybody else.
yeah, I know, but I was so happy because I hadn't found it yet.
Okay.
I didn't want to get one that you could get at Target. I wanted like a
Right.
real physical, like authentic
Gotcha.
one. And then I happened to go to the record store that I always go to, and they never had it. And then they just got it in. And he was like, "It's
Nice.
a first pressing, which is really cool. So take it." And
Right.
I was like, "Thank you, thank
Right.
you." So I was very happy with that. But yes, I do
Excellent.
do vinyl. I do a little bit of photography myself, like just
Oh.
as a hobby.
Hmm.
So I'm trying to collect like old cameras. I just got like an
Okay.
Argo Flex, like one of those like TLR ones, the ones that are like that. So
Mm,
I'm really happy. Yeah, so I'm really happy
yeah.
about that. But I collect, yeah, so vinyl and like old cameras, but I love anything like vintage and I
Right.
As a younger buyer, do you like the fact that like Target and Walmart sell vinyl now, or are you like, ah,
I don't necessarily mind it if it gets people into like getting the real stuff. You know what I mean?
Mm,
right?
Like, okay, I have this, but what does it
right.
mean to actually go to a record store and like
And
find the authentic stuff?
exactly.
I
Because
don't necessarily mind it,
Right.
really.
it
It's
seems very
yeah,
like, oh, here's like 50 records to sell, that we have, but it's
yeah.
not like going to a proper record store,
Right.
like
That's yeah, and that's kind of my thing. Why I don't particularly buy like the Target ones because
Right.
I know it's not. It was made now, and that's not a
Mm,
problem necessarily, but I find that a lot of the times kids are like, "Oh my gosh, I have a record in my
I have
record
a
player,"
record,
but
yeah,
it doesn't necessarily mean it's a real like, it is real, but it's not real, if that makes
right.
sense.
I'm with
But
you.
but I don't object because it does get
Right.
kids into getting a real thing.
Records. Yeah. That's.
Yeah.
Do you have a decent amount of record stores by
Um,
you?
Oh, I was gonna say records. Yeah, I do. But
No. Um,
record stores, yes. So there's a place. I'm in Orange County, so
mm,
there's a place called Old Town Orange, which is sort of like it takes you back really. Like it looks
right.
like an old town out of, like the 60s and whatever in the 50s and it's great.
Mm,
But they have a lot of like antique stores there and sort of like these just old shops that you can like find the
right.
random things but you're like, "Oh, this is cool." But they have a great record store there. They used to have a record store like 20 minutes from me. It was called Pepperland. It was a Beatles
Oh wow.
record store, which I was
Okay.
obsessed with. And that's
I
actually
bet.
where it's where I got a lot of like my really good old, authentic records. And the guy was so nice. He would give me free ones sometimes just because I was like such a loyal customer and
I
it was great.
actually think I went to that record store because I have a cousin who lives in Orange County. Was Pepperland that record store in a strip mall?
Yeah, yeah, kind of like a strip mall, just kind of like with
Mm,
Yes, by
parts owned
itself.
by yeah. Oh
Because
my gosh.
I have a cousin in Orange County, and I visited him years ago, and he took me to Pepperland, and I bought a
Oh,
couple records there.
wasn't it
Yes,
great? Wasn't it great? It was such a great store, and
great
unfortunately,
store.
it closed down.
mm,
I'm not sure if it was the pandemic or before then, but I think there was just no money anymore, and I
Yep.
think
gotcha.
the owner was trying to kind of like save it, and I think there
Right.
was even like a campaign, but it fell through,
Mm,
and now it's an ice cream parlor, which
Oh,
uh,
really messes me up because that was like my favorite store.
right.
There's also just like a little mall near the big department store mall that we have, but there's like a little mall kind of next to it, and it's sort of it's like a vegan type like hippie mall. It's very
mm,
like you know what I mean. It's very like ooh we're about
Right.
organic products, but they have this little sort of like not a trailer, but it's sort of like a little mobile home, but it's like the like small version of that, and it's
Mm,
just records. It's this guy that just sells a bunch of records, and I love it. I love it because he has like cassettes too, and he has like these
right.
singles, and the singles are the best pile though, in my opinion, because you find these
Right.
like goodies. Like I found like what was it I found? I found like I think it was like a Sun record and a Carl Perkins. I found like a Carl
Oh,
Perkins
cool.
like fifth like a 75. It was just you find a
Mm,
lot of goodies. So those are
cool.
kind of my main places.
Right.
For more record stores though, I think you gotta like go a little farther, kind of like around
Right.
the area.
How far are you from Amoeba Records?
Amoeba, it depends with traffic. I'm
Right.
without traffic, it'll be like 50 minutes. With
Okay.
mm,
traffic, an hour
Yeah.
20. So not too bad. Like I can
Okay.
get there. Amoeba's
Gotcha.
great though.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I would say it's my favorite, but it's too far for me. So I can't like
Right.
sure.
necessarily drive all the way, but
Right.
it's great.
The
It's great.
problem with Amoeba is, people know they price things accordingly. They know what they
Oh
have.
yeah. Oh yeah. That's you can't get
Right.
away with
Right.
saying like, oh, it's just some record. Sell it to
Right.
me
You're
for
not
like
gonna walk in and see a first pressing of like a Ringo's record from the early
yeah.
2000s and not have to pay, like $100
Yeah.
for it. They know what they have for sure.
Yeah,
Mm,
and they're also kind of on the bandwagon of here's, records that are new, like,
Right.
not really authentic ones, which is they
vintage.
have authentic
Right.
ones, but it's just they also have
Right.
those. So
Yeah.
I think they're becoming a little commercial in my opinion, and that's fine. Like they've always been commercial, but I don't know, like now it's everybody knows Amoeba and
It's
everybody
not a
knows
hidden
Yeah.
secret anymore.
it's
It's
not a
not a
secret
hidden
anymore.
secret anymore.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
It used to be, but
Right.
yeah.
Very good. Okay, well, let's get started with part two here of our Women and Wives episode, and we left off right around 68,
Mhm.
and we left off without mentioning a person that we should have. We probably could have ended it, but I think this might be a good way to start this episode
Yeah.
because in a way, when you think of Peggy Lipton, who we're going to be talking about here, when you hear about the relationship, it doesn't seem like it was like an actual boyfriend girlfriend relationship. This is more like
No.
I'm California, let's hook up relationship.
Yeah, it was like a on and off, like, "Hey, I'm in town, let's see each other,"
Right,
type thing. They had met in 1964 when the
right.
Beatles were in LA during the sort of like US tour, and it was at that like garden party they attended. I
Yes.
don't
Yep.
remember, and she was there because I think anyone was there, and she was a teen herself at that point.
19,
So
19.
yes,
Yeah.
19. So of
Yeah.
course she was a Beatles fan, and Paul took notice of her, of course he would, because she's gorgeous. If you've seen pictures, she was a very beautiful woman.
Right.
But yeah, and they just met, and it was like, they got on really well, and they hooked up. I think during that time as well. But
Right.
right, it was like an on and off sort of I'm in town, see me type thing. Yeah.
Right. Right. And then again next year as well, the following year, I
The
should say
following year.
65.
Yeah, the following
Um,
year.
Again, I think I read that Lennon kind of made fun of Paul because he took her out to dinner first before the hookup.
I did not know that, did he?
Yeah,
Oh, I mean, of course.
right. Yeah, well, that's what they do. They tease each
Yeah.
other about things like that.
Yeah,
But the
definitely.
yeah, but the part I did find interesting was again in '68 when Paul does call her to try to arrange a meeting, and then
Mhm.
she goes to where he's staying, unfortunately for her, Linda's now in the picture.
Yeah,
Mm.
so
Yeah,
it's kind of like her dreams were shattered a little bit in that
yeah,
way. Which well, and it's just like it must have hurt, not hurt, but she definitely must have been like, "Oh, okay,
yeah,
so I guess you're done with me. That's
yeah. I
it,"
guess.
type thing.
Yeah,
Which,
but
yeah,
again, though, there wasn't really a lot there to really warrant,
no,
any
no,
kind of affection, really.
yeah, I think he just found her interesting, obviously,
Right,
and you're young, why not, type
It's
right,
a
thing.
rebound after
Yeah,
Jane. Come
yeah,
on,
in a
man.
way,
yeah,
in a
yeah,
way,
Rebound.
and it's like she was very famous herself with the Mod Squad. That was becoming a really big
that's right,
thing, and
right,
like she probably didn't even have time to date Paul McCartney, even if she had
yeah,
wanted to. Like she's so busy with her acting
right,
career.
right.
Which is kind of like a trend. Paul seems to like actresses a lot,
This is
but but
Yeah, and people might not know she was also a star in Twin Peaks too.
yes, she was.
They're in the late '80s, early '90s. Which if you haven't seen Twin Peaks, please watch Twin Peaks.
I
It's a
have
great.
to. I haven't. I need to. I
Yeah.
really do.
Yeah, it's definitely worth the watch, especially that first season. But then she does well. I mean, hey, she does well for herself. I mean,
Yeah.
anytime you marry a Quincy Jones, I mean,
She did well. Let's just say
yeah, she did well.
that.
No, the Quincy Jones who said the Beatles were overrated. Oh, that Quincy
Yeah,
Jones,
that
right?
that
Got
Quincy
it.
Jones.
Right, right.
Yes, yeah,
Kind of the I wonder how I do wonder if he ever like how he felt about that, like knowing his wife,
right,
like, dated or I guess was with Paul McCartney. I always like imagine him being
Right.
like, oh
right.
my god.
Well, that's the thing, though. I mean, they could have found out because then in '81, while working on The Girl Is Mine, they do meet up again, which
Yeah.
I wonder was kind of awkward.
What brought that upon?
Maybe.
How did they meet again while working with
Well,
the
because
girl is
Quincy
mine? Oh, because
Jones, because Quincy
Quincy
Jones
produced.
is the producer, and she's still
Right.
married with Quincy at that time.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
So funny.
and
The
yeah,
awkwardness.
yeah, exactly. I
Did
mean,
she did she stay married to Quincy Jones for like till she passed away, or they got divorced?
no,
Uh,
I think they did. They had
they
divorced in
divorced
the
in like
'80s
the
at some point.
90s. Yeah.
Yeah, some
Mhm.
maybe yeah '90s. Yeah, they weren't together by the time she passed in May of 2019.
Oh, it was so
Um,
soon. It's been so
yeah,
recently. It's so
right,
intriguing to me.
right. And so and then she even babysat the McCartney children from my research while they went out and yeah, I mean, read that Linda was like, well, no hard feelings or anything like that, so
Right, yeah, keep it
yeah,
simple.
keep it simple, but again, you're married to Quincy Jones, so life isn't that bad.
Life is great. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So that pretty much ended Peggy Lipton there and then in '68. So but
Yeah.
listen, the I mean the main relationship, Linda Eastman.
Yes.
Obviously we talked about their meeting in the last episode, meeting at the Bag of Nails, and just how the
Well,
relationship
did
has grown from
did
there.
they
But go
meet
ahead,
at the
Andy.
Bag of Nails? Did they meet at the Bag of Nails first, or was she invited to the Sgt. and Pepper press release to take the
They
photos?
they met at the Bag of Nails first.
Right,
So she had come to London because a book was being published called Rock and Other Four-Letter
Rocking or the
Words,
four-letter
and
words,
right.
they
right?
asked Linda to do photographs of rock stars, everywhere from San
Hmm.
Francisco to New York to London. And actually, she was not even asked to photograph the Beatles on that London trip, but she knew she's like, I have to photograph the Beatles. I mean, I'm in London. How could I not
Right,
photograph the Beatles? So she took it upon herself and she went to like Brian Epstein's office at the time, which was kind of like the pre Apple headquarters, I guess you could say. But she went and she went to the secretary and was like, I'm a photographer. My name's Linda Eastman. Here's my portfolio. I would love to photograph the Beatles. Please get this to Brian Epstein because, I know he's their manager. I would really love this opportunity.
Right.
The secretary said, of course, yeah, we'll call you in like 2 days. So she
Right.
waits and she gets an immediate response. And, the secretary is like, Brian loved your photograph of Keith Moon and he wants to buy it. And of course, you can photograph the Beatles. You can come over to the Sergeant Pepper launch party that we're having. It's going to be
At
great. She's like,
Brian's house, right?
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but
Mm,
before that, she went to the Bag and Nails Club with the Animals because she was really good
mm,
friends with the Animals, especially Eric Burden.
Good.
She was really good friends with him,
mm,
and it just happened. They met,
right.
even before technically meeting at the launch
I know,
party.
there's that great bit in the
Mhm.
Wingspan documentary when he talks
Uh-huh.
to his daughter about it and how they saw the picture of the two of them. There's Linda Eastman talking to
Mm.
Beetle Paul.
Yeah,
It's you know,
it's just so funny.
Yeah.
It's so funny, but yeah,
but
no,
it went out. That photo went out in the wires of them.
Mm,
Even before,
right.
like just
talking.
from
Yeah,
that first meeting.
it was the
Right.
first meeting, and it was like destiny. And in that documentary, they talk about how they just like looked at each other, and it was like,
Right.
oh, it was like magic that moment, which is so romantic. But
Yeah.
yeah,
But before we dig more into that,
yeah.
as we're recording this, you had just dropped your latest episode
I
of
did.
She Loves You on
Linda, yeah.
Linda Eastman McCartney. So just talk about a little bit about researching Linda, and was there anything in particular you found that really just you were glad to know or startled you, or I mean,
Um, well, I guess I knew a lot about her previously just because I had in years of just researching, like I've just found out so much about her. And the
mm,
Wingspan documentary is always great to go back to because it's
right,
so much info. But I think the interesting thing about Linda is she's always been the person that she is. And I think that's
right.
like, one of the best things about her. She was always, this is me and
What you
you
see is
know
what you get.
what you get, and
Yeah.
that's sort of like what I've come across, even like friends that were interviewed about her, they're just like, oh, she was a very just like, this is who I am, and you're gonna get me at face value. And even like when she was a kid, she was raised in this very like
High
Right.
society.
privileged high
Yeah.
Yep.
society life. Like her father, Lee Eastman, who we all know Lee
Right.
Eastman, he was a top entertainment lawyer, and he represented like famous painters and all this. So she came from this very privileged life, but she was so not that at all.
Right.
She was like, I like being outside, I like talking to
Yes.
animals, I like just like I like being myself. And she was
Right.
she was kind of like the black sheep of the family. And I
That
think,
there you go, like the rebel, the black
yeah, the
sheep, in a
And
way.
rebel.
Yeah.
even
Yeah,
before that association with Paul, she just was not going to conform to what
never.
her
Right.
family was, and I think
Yeah.
that's why one of the reasons why he took a liking to her.
Oh, definitely. And that's kind of in all the research I've done of, for this episode and like my episode, it's just wonderful to see that Linda was always Linda, even from the
Right.
beginning. And I
Right.
think like my favorite story I've come across is like Mary said in a documentary somewhere where Linda was when she was a little girl, she would take like animals from the outside and bring them to like her bathroom and would like take care of them. And then I think one day her father found like a little like lizard or something in the bathtub, and he was like, "What is this?" And she's like, He's my lizard," and she just, I mean, that's just who she was. And I think that to
Right.
me, that's the best thing about researching her is
Right.
knowing she was this great, like,
Yeah.
cool person,
Right.
really.
And one of the things I think is so remarkable too is not only obviously the influence that she had on
Mhm.
Paul, but even I just watched it this morning. Paul, Barnes and Noble's dropped an interview with a
Mm,
guy by the name of James Dawn, a 1 hour interview, and he's talking about
right.
how when Paul and Linda first got together, and she asked him about that farm that they had up in Scotland, and he was like, "Yeah, I bought it, but I never go up there." And she was
Yeah.
like, "Let's go there," and she got
Right.
excited about it. And then because she was excited about it, he was like, "This
He
is
was
great," you know. So
Yeah.
that's just
Oh, yeah.
That's her
right.
influence. Like
Yeah.
now, and he says he goes, "Oh, if I look at her eyes and I actually see why it's great," and that's just one of the cool things, one of the great things about her. It's just
Yeah,
Right.
something
definitely.
he wouldn't even here's Linda who's like, "Oh, this is Scotland. It's picturesque. Let's go check it out."
Yeah.
Because she's an American, so it's like Scotland. Let's go
Right.
check. Where he's just like, "Oh, it's just some shack.
Just
I don't need to worry
Scotland.
about it."
Yeah.
This is
Right,
Scotland.
right. But
Well, and also,
but
It's
Yeah.
interesting because like, he did buy that farm when he was still with
So
Jane, so
Jane, correct.
I
Yes.
kinda get the feeling maybe he was like, "I don't wanna go to that place, like, let's not go there," but no, and I think Linda said, like, when we got to Scotland, it was a mess, I had to redo the whole house, and I had to,
Right.
'cause it was just a mess, he hadn't been there in a while, so, it's great, and you do like you mentioned, it's wonderful the way she made him really humble, I think, and
Right.
that's really
Good
important.
point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
absolutely.
Mhm.
So she's a divorced woman. She was originally married in '62.
Yeah.
Heather's born in '62 as well. Marriage doesn't last long. And at this point, let's talk about her as a photographer here for
Mhm.
a
Well,
second. As with this, what? Go ahead.
I was just going to ask if Natalia in her research knows anything. And in all my years of reading about the Beatles, I've never found much about Mel C. Do you have any? What about him?
The only thing I really know about him is that he was a very serious, like, intellectual type. Given he
Right.
was, was he a geologist, or I always forget what he
Mhm.
was, but I think he was a geologist. I believe that he was a geologist. And Heather, their daughter, has said that like he wasn't really my father, but we got closer towards the end of his like kind of
Right.
when he was about to
Mm.
pass away.
Right.
Right.
We got closer, and she said he's very sensible, a real thinker type, and um from all accounts that's just who he was. I don't really know much else about him other than that.
Mm.
The only thing I do know is when doing my research is Linda was not too fond of the fact that he always brought the classroom to the home. It was always like,
Right.
this, my that,
Bringing work
that,
home. Right. Yeah.
so I
Right.
think in part that's why the marriage didn't last, because she wanted fun in her home, like, as
Right.
well, like we can be intellectual,
Which.
we can be fun at times,
Right.
and I think, given she was young as well,
Right.
so
Which is kind of ironic because Paul does work at home as
yeah,
well. He does write music at
yeah,
home,
Right. But
or
being
songs or
being
whatever.
being
Right.
a musician at home and playing songs is a little different than being, a little more of a scholarly
Well,
type.
probably
yeah,
because she enjoyed music to begin with, so I
Right.
yeah,
can see
yeah.
how that would have its advantages over, yeah,
Definitely. But
being
from all accounts, yeah, I don't again, we don't really know much about him, and that's sort of like I think the big
right.
mystery of life is we'll never really know much about him. But Heather said that they got much closer, and
Right.
even though he
Hey,
wasn't her father, quote unquote, he was still like her biological father, and
right.
it's just one of those
And
things.
she herself keeps such a low profile.
Well,
Very
it had to have been really tough on her to lose him then what, 2 years after Heather,
yeah.
and the way he died too, because it was a suicide.
Suicide, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it must have killed her, and
Yeah.
that's like I don't know, poor Heather, like not
Right.
really knowing her biological father for so long, and then when they're finally
Right.
close, it's like
Right.
Like, I'm
gone.
sure
Right.
she is probably so appreciative of the life that Paul gave her, but
Absolutely,
she probably had her own demons and realizing, like, my
yeah,
biological father is, I'm not really connected to him, but my adopted father is this megastar and who's treated
yeah,
me and taken care of me. So
yeah,
that's
Right.
you
definitely,
could see how that be a conflict for her, and it's
Mm.
you
absolutely,
know
Mm.
sad in a way.
yeah, and it's interesting, like I think maybe also the fact that Linda maybe didn't want to be a wife at that time. She didn't want to be like a housewife
Mm.
because I
Right.
think I don't know if you guys have seen, and it might have been in like a Paul McCartney biography, but there's a
Mm.
picture of Linda and like little baby Heather, and she's cooking in the kitchen, and
Right.
it was I think for like the Arizona newspaper or something, and it's like Mrs. Joseph Melvin C. and their daughter
Mm.
Heather as she makes her recipe of this, and I feel like maybe she just didn't want that life. She didn't want that
Right.
like housewife, quote unquote, life, and just being married to a professor.
Right.
Probably didn't suit her much. So
Right.
it's we won't really know about a lot about them, and that's sort of like one of those mysteries of the Beatle
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
But
Good. Yeah.
yeah,
Cool. All right, on to the photographer Linda,
yeah,
and the amazing work that she was doing prior to her pretty much stopping and living the life as Mrs. McCartney. But some of the I have the Linda life and photos here, and then just
yeah.
some of the work is we talked about her first gig being on the yacht for
Yes.
taking pictures of the Stones, and some good stuff here. And then let me just find this other one here. So then obviously we talked about, her taking photos of the Beatles. And then we got that
I
Yes.
love
famous,
that photo. I love that
yeah,
photo. The handshake
Beautiful.
the,
photo.
the
Love that.
handshake one is incredible.
Love that
You
one.
know,
And
and we talk about
that's such a Linda photo too, you know what I mean? Like, I don't
right,
think any other photographer at that party would have ever gotten that.
No,
It's
no
so
right,
way.
her, perfect.
yeah,
And
and
yeah,
then
it's great, and it just
right,
shows, like, she got I think Linda's one of the few photographers that got them perfectly. I mean, I'd say
hmm
definitely in the top 5. There are so many, but she's,
right.
like,
I
right
mean,
up
she's
there.
taken so many great photos of Paul, obviously, but her photos of
Oh,
John are equally as awesome.
Oh my god, seriously.
yes.
And
Here's yeah.
yeah, there's Neil
Neil
Young and
Young, and
and
that ended up
people.
being on an album cover for him. And I'm trying to find.
I
Okay, and
think
then here,
she go ahead, Tom.
go ahead. No, I'm just
No,
saying here the main big first accomplishment I would say then is this photo of Eric Clapton.
Yep.
And then what happened? That ended up being on the cover of Rolling Stone, which she ended up being the first female photographer to have a cover on the cover of the Rolling
Rolling
Stone.
Stone.
Right.
you know,
No, but big accomplishment, and I think that
yeah,
just shows, like, sometimes people, not that they forget, but they always just associate her as Mrs. Paul McCartney, and the
right.
reality is she had this full career
Yeah,
before Paul,
Yes.
this
totally.
wonderful career.
Right.
Yeah.
And then here's another great one too that I've always liked. I don't know if you can see it there.
Who is that? Is that
No, it's
it's
Paul.
John. John
Yeah,
Paul.
John
Oh,
and
John
Paul.
John,
Paul.
Yeah,
That one.
yeah.
That's a
yeah.
great one. There's also, I think she took another great one of the two of them sitting down, and
There it
Yes,
John's
is,
got his
right
during the
hand
there.
up.
Abbey Road
That
session.
one.
Yeah.
That
That's
one.
it right
That
there.
one is
Yeah,
so good.
Perfect. Oh
yeah.
my
I
gosh.
love that
And
photo.
Yeah,
I think I had
and
it
then like you mentioned, I think she captures John so well, and
right
especially
here.
during this, like, turbulent time. But yeah, oh, see, yeah, that's perfect. Him in the
Yeah.
living
I mean,
She captures the sweet part of John that only really Paul knows. Everybody
Yeah,
right.
thinks John in that late period is so caustic and bitter, and he was going through his own crap. But
yeah,
Linda captures the sweet soul person that John is
Right.
perfect.
in all
Yeah,
those
and
photos.
the
Right.
vulnerable side of him as well, because she
Yes.
mentioned that
Yes.
you guys probably know,
Here.
but yeah, oh yeah, there you go. See,
There, right there.
so
Yeah.
interesting. She mentioned that John was her favorite Beatle before she had even met
Mm.
Paul. And because she thought, she says in an interview, like, I thought he was the wisest person ever. Like, I thought, like,
hmm
if someone was going to be, somebody, it was John Lennon, I knew that. But then I met him and it was not at all what I thought. That was the moment I realized people are not what they seem. And just because we have an idea of someone in our heads doesn't mean
Right.
that's who they really are, because
Mm.
he was more sullen and quiet, given it was a really bad period in his life, but he
Right.
was more reserved and very, like, you know, not as
Mm.
Yeah.
the funny, wise one we like
Right.
to think.
Yeah. This one is in the lyrics book.
Oh,
And I
Oh,
wrote the. I mean, obviously,
yep.
you can tell how worn down he looks. You know, which is a really nice one. And I got here's love this one too. Another group shot. In front of the
oh, it's always been my
EMI
favorite.
doors.
Yeah.
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 And then I think I got one more here, which might be arguably the most famous one. Right here.
Oh, yeah. Him with
The
little
cover
Mary in
shot.
the
Yeah, the cover shot, or the
cover
or the
shot.
back shot of which was supposed to be the cover shot, right? I mean, it was supposed
Right.
to be.
Supposed to be.
Um, yeah, but then oops happened. But yeah, so obviously she could have continued being this world famous rock photographer,
Yeah.
and in a way she did, because then in '74, she had another milestone. She was the first female to have a photo on the cover of Rolling Stone, and then she was also
On the cover
the
herself.
first
Yeah.
female on the cover herself taking the photo.
Oh, yeah. It's
So
a huge
this
deal.
was quite amazing. Yeah, it
It's
is a huge
amazing.
deal.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
and I don't think anybody's ever done that since. I think that was the
uh,
first and, like, only time that's ever
right.
happened, which is amazing.
Yeah. So, but you do get photos. There's also the Polaroid book that's out now that you can
Yep.
get a lot more photographs in there, great photographs in there as well. But then you will see photos from her from time to time, on albums and stuff like that. If you open the
Mhm.
gatefold, so yeah. I mean, it's just was really amazing what she was able to accomplish in such a short period of time.
Absolutely, and it's also, like, every musician that I've, like, heard do an interview or whatever, they all, if they talk about Linda, it's,
Mm.
she brought out the best in us,
Right.
she made us be calm when a lot of the times we didn't wanna deal with photographers because they were so in your
Right.
face and I just didn't want to be there. But with Linda, it was like everything changed. We could relax, we could have
Right.
fun, and that was always her approach to photography. Was I don't like posing, I don't like studios, I don't like any of that. I love natural light, I love capturing people like in the moment, and
Right.
I think that's why she gets the results she does, because like she was able to just let them relax, and
Mm.
and and then another thing, she would make you feel good about yourself. Like she would talk to these rock stars and just be like, "What's up, man? Like how you doing? Like
Right.
don't worry about, like anything else." And that's why she was really good friends with like Jimi Hendrix and like
Hendrix.
Eric
Yeah.
Burden, and
Right.
like they just really really liked her, and there's rumors that yes, she kind of dated some of them, but that's why not? Why not? She was
And
young, It's
in,
why
in
not?
a
Right.
and in a world now where everybody with their
In a
smartphones
world.
can take these kind of shots. No, but it's serious. It is serious. Like everybody can take these kind of candid shots that Linda like to do, but Linda was doing it at a time when it was like, okay, this is she's just a camera, and
Yeah,
she's doing what everybody does now with selfies and taking candids,
absolutely.
and there thousands of photos on our camera roll, but it was something that Linda was doing just because it was what she was.
Yeah.
Even though the technology wasn't there, she was like, this is what I'm going to do.
Definitely, definitely. And
Mm.
it's sort of like she was so inspired by photographers that she like kind of grew up just knowing, like Dorothea Lange and like, Henry Cartier-Bresson, and like these great photographers that just captured like street life, and like Dorothea Lange captured the migrant workers in the Great Depression, so she was very inspired by just life photography, and that's why her work is, so good the way it is, really. Definitely.
Mm. Great.
Mhm.
Let's talk about a few things, that could have attracted Paul to
Mhm.
Heather. I mean, sorry, not Heather, but Linda.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll get to
but
that.
We'll get to that,
yeah, we'll
yeah.
get to that. Yeah, exactly. But looking at the things, I mean, she was like motherly, which I think was really important for Paul. She had a child already, which I think attracted as well because he had wanted to have children, as well as and
Yeah.
take that big step to really, to adopt Heather, and take on that responsibility as
Absolutely.
well.
Yeah.
Was a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, one of the
Mm.
I think, like, when they first kind of met at that, like, Sergeant Pepper launch party, she mentioned, "Oh, I have a daughter and she's 4," and that was,
Right,
like, while he really liked her and, he thought she was cute and all that, he thought, "Oh my gosh, she's a mom," like, I don't think I'd ever been with a
right,
woman that was so motherly in that way, and it was like a revelation to
right,
him. He was like, "This is great,"
right,
because he wanted kids,
right,
so definitely.
right. Right. Free spirit. We talked about, adventurous. They would. Paul would talk about, Linda would say, "Okay, let's go out and get lost." I mean, that's
Yeah,
like a lot where the song "The Two of Us" comes from. It's just,
yeah.
then getting hopping in the car with Martha, the dog, in the back, and then just,
Yeah.
running off and getting lost, which is really
Yeah,
cool too.
yeah. She helped him relax is what I like to call it, because, the stress of being a Beatle, you're never gonna be relaxed. But
Right.
she would say, like, I think Paul said in that one quote, he was like, he said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Linda. I'm just so tired, and I'm like,
Right.
I'm so anxious about this." And she's like, "It's allowed. You can be tired, like,
Game
Right.
changer.
game changer." Yeah, exactly. It's
Or
allowed, like
right,
that's
Right.
or like
powerful.
when they wanted to get in the car, just get lost, and he's like, "No, I want to know where we're going and what's the
Yeah,
Right.
destination." And no,
Right.
it's okay.
it's
Right.
okay. You can get lost,
Right.
and
Yeah,
and I think that was very powerful to him, because he had so much expectations from so many different people. John wanted him to write the songs.
Right.
He had to be in the Beatles. He had to do this. Records. So when finally Linda was just like, "It's okay. Don't worry about
Right.
it." It was changing for him, really. Yeah.
Right. Another one, as I lose my space here. Well, as a guy, she's obviously good looking. She's attractive. You
Yeah.
know, Great figure. Obviously that's one of the things that I'm sure attracted her. Paul to her right away. You said casual. An artist, relaxed attitude, free spirit. Motherly. I mean, there's just so many things, and great things too. It's just not like you know what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, it's just she just it was like it felt like it was like a real relationship from the moment. It didn't feel like it was going to be a fling.
No,
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 No.
and I think at first Paul maybe he thought that's what it would be, but
Mm.
then, as time went by, because
Right.
the reality is they met in 67, but they didn't see each other for like a whole year,
Right.
until
Right,
the
right.
end of
Right.
68. So the truth is maybe he at first thought, oh, it's just
Yeah.
this girl, but then as he mentioned, he kept thinking
Right.
about her, and it was like he
Right.
just couldn't get her out of his mind. And you know I think when you're always thinking about something, that
Right.
means
That's
something,
it was
obviously.
shallow was the word I was looking for. I
Yeah,
mean,
it wasn't
it wasn't
shallow.
shallow at all, you
Definitely,
know.
definitely. And
So,
they kept in contact. I think people forget that, like she sent him a little picture of Heather that she took
mhm,
of Heather sitting in front of a poster with Paul's face on it, actually, and like she sent it to him, and he
mm,
kept it all this time. So it's she was always on his mind, and
right.
he would she would never be out of it, really. So yeah.
Right. And then obviously she's in a tough spot. The John announces he wants a divorce. Paul goes through this Great Depression,
Yeah.
drinking, staying in bed all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, you could say, I mean, it was the marriage was put to a test really early. Because
Yeah.
they just got married earlier that year. In
And
what was it, May, right?
Yeah,
who?
in
Yeah,
March, I think.
March.
March. Thank you. Yeah,
March of
March. Thank you.
And
69.
Yeah, March of
let's
'69.
the fact that she was American, that the people did not
Right.
like that.
They
People did
No,
hated
not
her.
like that.
The Apple Scruffs did not like that.
Hated her.
Right.
Everybody hated her. She
You're marrying a Yank?
Yank.
Really? You know?
And
yeah,
one of the
they
yeah,
hated her. They
and
hated
one of
her
the right,
specifically as well for the way she dressed. They hated that
right,
she didn't put on makeup. They hated
right.
that she was like this freak, like they were like, "What is this?"
When one of the A's for Apple books from authors Sarah Schmidt, she wrote about the Apple Scruffs. They would
Yeah.
call her. They would say that she's hairier than Paul. Which is not really me. It's. I mean, it's not really nice.
It's horrible. Yeah.
It's terrible. Yeah, but these are things people say.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
and especially I think like Paul fans in particular, they were so
Right.
passionate about their love for Paul McCartney that it just
Right.
they couldn't believe it. And
Right.
I think also with the perception was is everybody thought he would marry Jane Asher, so they were so
Right.
confused. They just did
Right.
not expect this at all. And John
Right.
even said that. He's like, we all thought he was going to marry Jane Asher. She came out of nowhere. So it's just like one of those things. Yeah,
Right. And then to not have any musical experience at all, and then to join a band with your husband.
yeah.
I mean, that takes some guts.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, she was hesitant, definitely, because
Right.
I'm not a musician, Paul. Like,
Right.
like, trust me, people don't want to see me up on stage. And he's like,
Right.
no, because he wanted her to be with him at all times.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, he talks about how he brought her in to do the harmonies on "Let It Be,"
Hmm.
Right.
because she was a girl and can do it. And I mean, I've often wondered how much of that bringing Linda in was just him kind of just
Right.
doing the same thing. Just okay, John, you had heard. Now I'm going to do the
Right.
same thing. I'm doing the
Right.
same thing.
Oh, I honestly have always thought that it was a mix of both. He wanted Linda there with him, but at the same time,
Like,
he
okay,
knew what he was
she's
doing.
going to sit here in a
Yeah,
bed on a speaker for 6 weeks.
yeah.
Linda's coming here too.
And that's sort of the thing I talk about actually on my episode, and I've said this like before, but we don't talk about the parallels between John and Yoko and Linda and Paul.
Mm,
They're doing the same thing.
same thing. Right.
It's just maybe in a different way. And people don't give Linda a lot of crap for it, but they give Yoko like 10
Well,
millions crap.
people did give
Yeah.
people. Linda did take
She
a lot of
did.
crap at
Yeah, in the
first.
day,
In the
definitely.
band.
Yes, yes.
Obviously she took it on the chin. Well, she
Yeah.
knew she wasn't a good musician at first. She had to
Yeah.
work hard to become a musician, and she was very brave. I give her a lot of credit for
I
Well,
stepping
do.
into that role.
Yoko only took the stage with John a handful of times, at concerts
Right.
and stuff.
Yeah.
The live piece in Toronto, one-to-one
Right.
concert. Linda was a full-fledged member of a
Full-fledged member.
touring outfit.
No,
So
right.
that and the especially the UK press was merciful, just merciless with their
Just
Right.
treatment of her.
hated her. Yeah. It's like, and she, like you said, she took it on the chin. She just was
Right.
like, whatever. It didn't affect her. I mean, given it probably did, but at the same
But
time,
even
yeah.
when and you've heard these interviews where she talks about it, she's like, you know what, they were right to criticize me because I didn't have any
Right.
talent, I didn't have any experience, I didn't
Mhm.
play before, so they were
Mm,
right in a way to criticize that.
Absolutely, yeah, I mean, she knew it, but Paul
Mm,
wanted her there, and it's just, like, one of
right,
those things where, she was willing to do that because they just loved each other so much, it comes down to that, and that's kinda what I say about John and Yoko too. It may be
right,
annoying, but, they loved each other at the end of the day, that's what it
mm,
comes down to, really.
right.
Yeah.
Um, Unfortunately, she was diagnosed with breast cancer in '95.
Yeah.
We know that she went through a lot of testing. I think at one point they thought that they got rid of it. Was
Yeah, they were like, "Oh,
uh,
we're confident that things are gonna
uh,
go great," I mean,
hmm
you can't really say confident with any sort of medical
right.
diagnosis, but they were fairly certain that they were gonna come through this and it was gonna be
hmm
fine. But nope.
Yeah.
I remember at the time when he was knighted and she wasn't there, that
Mm,
was a red flag where I'm like, okay,
Right.
this is probably pretty because that she wouldn't have missed
yeah.
that, and
No. Oh
he was
no, not at
he was
all.
he was knighted in '97, right? So
Right.
right before Flaming Pie, and I remember thinking, and it was already reported that she had cancer, but I remember
Right.
missing that. I remember thinking, wow, okay,
Serious.
this
Yeah.
is not going to be because she wouldn't have missed that, of
Yeah.
Right.
course.
Definitely. Definitely. I can't even imagine. I mean, like, I just think about how you spend all your years with this person and you love them so much and you've created this great family and
Right.
it's just like all of a sudden comes crashing down, because this stupid sickness that we still can't find a
Yeah.
cure for,
Um,
All this money that's been dished into research for that terrible disease, and we
and
Yeah.
still
you
you
know,
know
um, and I remember when she passed away, and then the secrecy about it, where she actually
mm,
passed away. Was it in California? Was it in Arizona?
Zona, right?
Which
Yeah.
I think it actually was Arizona, Tom, right?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe so. I mean, that's what I think I read in the Sorens book.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I think she did too. Yeah. But
and they said, I think Santa Barbara was the code word for where they would be California, but it really wasn't Santa Barbara.
mm,
Mm,
And it's just, God, you read about her last few nights there, and Paul's with her
right.
holding her hand and everything.
Right.
mhm,
And,
yeah.
Yeah.
And then the whole family is kind of with her at the moment that it
Right.
happened.
it's yeah, it's actually
Ah,
it's choking me,
tearjerker.
it's,
Right.
it's
I
choking
know
me,
it
it's
does.
choking me up just thinking about it.
I
Actually,
know.
Yeah.
um,
That unfortunate day was April 17th of '98, and he went through a good stretch. He talks about going through a year of mourning and crying a lot.
Yeah.
So understandably, I mean, they were married 29 years.
29
you know
years.
and
Incredible.
I remember hearing about them in the early MTV days.
Mhm.
The DJ Martha Quinn was introducing one of the early McCartney videos. Maybe it was Spies Like Us or something like that, and she said, she talked about how they're Paul and Linda were one of the most successful rock marriages in the history.
Yeah,
And it went for 29 years, and you would
29
imagine
years, yeah.
and
you would
as
imagine it would still be going now if
Oh, yeah,
that
it would
that
oh,
didn't
no
happen.
doubt.
stronger
And
than ever.
listen,
Yeah.
as he said, other than one enforced absence, they
Right.
never spent any time apart. Other than one
Right.
enforced absence there.
Oh my god.
What was
But
that? What was that?
that
I think we know
was
it.
the
We
bad.
we know what that
We
We
know
know
was.
what
what
it
that
And
was.
was. Yeah, we know what that was. What was that?
Yeah.
9 days? 9 days?
Uh,
9 or 10 days, 10, I
9 or 10
think.
Yeah.
days, yeah, something
Yeah.
like that. Oh,
Jan-
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, it just goes to show the love that they just had for each other,
Right.
and I think like we've said before, but Paul was such a family man that he was,
Right.
this was kind of what he always wanted. He wanted his wife, his kids forever and ever and ever.
Right.
And it's kind of, and Tom, I've shared this with Tom. It's kind of, we've talked about this when the
Yeah,
Flaming Pie archive box came out last year. I kind of look at Paul as two Pauls, Linda
Right.
and post Linda,
Right.
because the family and the love and the kids and everything that went into that relationship post Linda, it's just, and I just can't look at him the same way musically, or
yeah,
it's totally different. It's a totally different person.
very
I mean, it's
definitely.
Kind of.
still Paul McCartney, it's still a Beatle, but from
Yeah,
going through that loss and that 30 years of a marriage and a life with her,
yeah.
you can't be the same person when you
No,
start
no,
over.
it's a
You
big
just
No.
transition, huge transition,
Right.
and the whole like having to move on, quote unquote. It's like, but how do you
Right.
move on? After you
Right.
lost the love of your life.
Well,
I tell you how, you make a rock and roll album
There
and
you
you
go.
sing your
There
head
you
off.
go. That's
make a rock and roll
you
album,
could
right?
totally see that too. Yeah.
Yeah. But then in this, this transition, a year later, he ends up meeting someone at this the Pride of
Dinner
Britain
at a
Awards.
right,
The
right.
Pride of Britain Awards in
Yep.
1999, May 20th, 1999 to be exact. And I think he's sitting next to Piers Morgan, and he's asking who this particular person is on stage. And Piers says, "Well, that's Heather Mills," and
Mhm.
she's kind of like a local, B or C type celebrity, I guess you could say,
Yeah, she
Well,
has
model.
done that. Former model.
Yeah,
see until she met him.
right, yeah. See, so
Yeah.
yeah, right.
She's she was quote unquote an activist. I mean,
Right.
she's like
Yeah,
a little
she
Yeah.
now,
had an
but
act, yeah, she did have like some kind
yeah,
of charity thing going at the
Yes.
yeah,
time. After that award show, Paul they did meet, and then Paul talked about, giving to that charity as,
yes, yes,
as
yes,
well.
yes.
So I guess that kind of started the ball rolling a little bit.
A little bit.
And
There was an attraction there because
well, again, in a way, from what I was reading, this is kind of a little bit different. This was kind of more like a shallow attraction, because he talks about
yeah,
how, he found her physically attractive,
yep.
in a way that where, yeah, maybe he just didn't, he was kind of rushing into it. I've always felt that this kind of,
And
even
listen,
though they married in, in 2001, I think it was,
two,
or
two.
2002, thank you. It still felt like it was kind of rushed in a way.
And listen,
Uh,
Definitely.
we know his kids were on record. They were not in favor of this at
Well,
No.
but see, and
all.
that's the thing though, because Stella in one magazine did kind of like, publicly say she, didn't mind Heather at all.
Yeah, but
You
that
know,
was
and,
early on, and I think that was just
right.
more of a PR thing to support the family and everything, but I
Yeah,
think
Mhm.
yeah.
deep down, those
'Cause
children were not in favor.
I definitely know that they would. I think during that time, especially, so soon after their mother's death, they tried to keep it, play it
Right.
nice for a little while,
Yeah,
Right.
play it nice, support dad, but deep
but
down, we are
there was
not the
definitely tension there, and you know
Mm,
it. I mean, I would not even doubt that the McCartney kids would give him like an intervention and be like, "What are you doing?
right.
yeah.
Go soon, Dad. Like you cannot group
Right.
it." But
Exactly. Right. So, Heather and her sister Fiona, they write a song together called "Voice." Paul adds vocals to that. I think that kind of adds a little bit more to the attraction. I think the first time that they're actually seen publicly together would be for her 32nd birthday,
yeah,
from my understanding.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then, it just goes from there. But before we get more into that, I mean, a little bit into her background. Okay, here's another case where she's married again.
Yep, she was married twice.
Prior,
Yeah,
yeah, prior to, she was a model. Like you said, she was obviously in that bad car crash where she had to have her leg
potato. Yeah,
amputated. And I think it was with a police officer or some kind of police um
Right, which
accident.
but I
Go
think
ahead.
it also clears up a misconception too. A lot of people, because obviously the mind thing became her campaign, but she was actually just hit by a car. But think a lot of people think she actually her leg she lost her leg by walking over a mine. That wasn't the case. She just was hit by
no, yeah, it was just the
Right.
car accident. Yeah,
it was a
definitely.
car accident. The adopt the minefield became a thing because of
Right.
But yeah, I know a lot of people think, oh, she was blown up by a mine.
Yeah,
No, she was not.
No.
they're like, "She was so brave." I'm like, "It was a car accident," but yeah,
It
she's
was a car.
safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But that's again one of the things where her and Paul collaborated on was this adopt a landmine campaign, which again, what was that? What did that start? What did I write down when that started? That was
2003,
yeah.
4. Um, they were also big. Do you remember their appearance on Larry King with the Seals? Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was another big campaign. The seals were being
Mm,
slaughtered, I think, in Canada or
The
somewhere.
right.
seals were being slaughtered. Yeah, no, it's not
Do
funny,
you
but
remember that,
yeah.
Natalia? Yeah,
Well, I've seen it now. I was too young to have seen it then, but yes, 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 I've seen it
Mm,
yeah,
now. The
yeah.
other, what is it?
right.
Slaughter or prevent the
Right.
slaughter
Well,
of seals.
yeah. Right. Yeah. She was a animal activist, just like
Yeah.
Linda
Yes.
was. Again, something to even attract to Paul
Yeah.
to her even more.
It's interesting because like she. I mean, I guess now in recent times she's become a very like staunch activist and she's like a vegan
Hmm.
and all that. So
Yes.
yeah, it's interesting to see how they did have those similarities, her and Linda, but
Hmm.
they just did it in completely different ways.
Personally wise, I mean, because
Personalized though, yeah.
yeah, in a way though, Heather comes from a broken family. In a way, her mom leaves the husband for another man. I think the husband ends up dying, I think, as well.
Yeah,
I
he
don't
passed
remember the
away.
dad,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
she had to go live with the mom and then the stepdad for a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then goes into modeling, some nude modeling. No big deal. I mean, people are free to do that if they want.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, and then meeting like that again. It's just maybe I just wish Paul would have just I
Waited.
don't know what you think. Yeah,
Waited.
waited. Yeah,
Waited, and I think and I watched an interview with her, and she even said, like, "We fell in love, but, like, we quickly realized it was a mistake on both
like
parts." It's just,
What
gotcha.
like,
do
one of
you
those things,
what do you make of all her claims post the divorce that he's not really the person he is? He's such a mean person. He's evil. He's
Uh,
this.
it's all, I mean, bullshit, but, like, it's complete bullshit. I
Yeah,
think I think she was hurt, so she's obviously, like, doing this to kind of,
right,
and I feel bad for saying this. I don't this is not a bashing because that's not, like, what I do, but she's
right,
trying to stay
Bash,
relevant. She's
bash,
trying to stay
bash.
relevant. So she, of course, is going to say whatever she feels, and especially when it comes to, like, Paul, she's gonna maybe take a jab, even if it's
right,
like, this, that. So, I mean, unfortunately, I think she's bitter, and I think the best way to, like, be relevant is to
right.
shout out Paul.
And
Um,
he didn't have her sign a prenup. Damn you, Macca.
I
You should
know,
have done
I
that.
know, I
See, with
know.
Nancy
Yeah,
now, it doesn't matter because she's got her own money. It doesn't matter. But
she's yeah. Well, we'll
She's
but
get
co-
to yeah,
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 yeah.
I
yeah.
mean, I remember like when they got divorced with Heather, and it's just like, and all the media stuff, and I remember like the
Yeah,
court
I
case.
was too young to remember any of it. So I
Yeah,
could imagine, people that witnessed it. It must have been insane. It's
right. So
craziness.
yeah, so Paul proposes in July of 2001. That's when they roughly start that adopt a minefield campaign bit. Paul got the engagement ring while on holiday in Jaipur, India, which apparently that's probably where "Riding to Jaipur," the
Came
song from
from.
Driving Rain, came from. They married in June 11 of 2002. And Andy,
Mhm.
you were talking about how it was this big. Before we signed on here. I mean, you talking about how big this wedding was, and kind of big for two people getting married for the second time.
Yeah, that big castle in Ireland
Right,
and star-studded glitzy
right,
type thing. I remember seeing it on the cover of People magazine, and I'm like, this is not Paul McCartney. This is all her. This is not the guy that I love, who is like a down-to-earth guy who just loves his family. This is all her. This is
Yeah.
all this.
Oh yeah,
mm,
definitely. And, like,
mm,
I think Paul was so, like, blindly in love that he would go
right,
along with whatever she said. And
Yes.
it's like,
right,
it's fun. Like, look, it's great to be in love. I'm assuming I've never been in love, but, like, at the
mm,
same time, like, you can't just do things because, like, oh, I want this person, and and like you
right.
said, it just wasn't him anymore. He changed because he was so into this, woman that,
And
it just
maybe it was a
Yeah,
way of him to kind of get past the grief if he could just went headlong into
yes.
that
Yep.
relationship.
That's always been my theory. Is I think he loved her because I don't think Paul would marry someone if he didn't love her. But I think,
okay, yeah,
unfortunately,
good.
the love
Yeah,
was blinding because
mm,
he was
Of
still grieving. He was still
mm,
grieving.
Yeah.
okay,
And he's
Yeah.
so sad and so grieving. He's like, okay, well, how do I? Well, here's this attractive babe.
right,
Let me dive
Yeah.
head in here and throw caution to the wind, no matter what my kids say or anything. And
Right.
just
right,
and
Exactly.
sometimes,
right.
I
And
mean,
they were together a lot. I mean, Andy, like you said, they did the Larry King live, right? She was with him when he was in Moscow for that
yep,
show. Excuse me, and she talked him into doing Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. You know,
yes, yes, I remember that.
Ah,
I mean,
which
the
is
only
pretty
good thing
funny,
she did,
right? Anyways,
but that was
so
funny.
but
That was
like
a
you,
funny
Paul
like
episode.
you,
McCartney on a show.
yeah, a statement from Paul here. Being in love with her made me want to write songs. Well, person before her made you write songs too.
Some damn good
But
ones too.
yeah, some damn good. Well, and then you talk about songs like "See Your Sunshine." Was a good song for "Memory Almost Full." About her, and there's other songs out there as well.
You know
Heather,
what I think? I think it's
obviously,
a really great one that was written too. I think it's called it's from New. It's called Hell to Pay. I love that one because I've always thought that one was always a little bit of a dig that way too.
right? It's going to be hell to pay, right?
Yeah. she can go off on interviews, but he's gonna write about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So, divorce they separated. Sorry, in May of 2006. The divorce ended in May of 2008. She was awarded 16.5 million. I believe that's UK money, but
Which is,
125 million. She had claimed that she knew exactly how much Paul was worth.
Oh my goodness.
So, but obviously, as we know, she didn't get that much. But
no.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
And my favorite is her, like, I mean, I don't know her experiences, so I can't comment on that,
right.
but like the fact that she was like, he was abusive and would like,
Right.
like,
Right.
Yes,
That's what I'm
yes,
yeah,
yeah,
saying. He was
right,
abusive.
where,
Really?
right,
Where? Paul
where?
McCartney was abusive? We've got 60 years of
well,
testimonies
right,
of people and family and friends to
And
say
then
the opposite.
the irony of all of it is I think she like said something before like, "Oh, Paul gets me breakfast in bed and he's such a
exactly, and then I
wonderful."
cook dinner, so we have this
Yeah,
understanding, and
yeah,
he's tidy, he cleans up, and all of
yeah.
this, you
So I'm
know,
like, where is this
right.
abusive plot line coming from?
Well, and that's the thing. She
I
said
don't
that
yeah.
he was stoned all the time, drunk all the time. Well, he just lost a wife after 29 years. I can understand that.
Mhm.
And plus, if things are going a little sour in their marriage, I think that could cause a little bit
Yeah.
of wanting to drink and get stoned too.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
A little way to like, what is it? Let off steam, as they
Set
say.
off
What,
steam.
what
There you
what's
go.
the song, Tom? Happy with you? I used to get
Happy with you.
I used to get right?
Yeah. I used to get stoned. Used to drink too much. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
But these days he don't. You know why? Because he's happy with him.
Right. And
So
he kicked her to the curb with her
right.
16.5 million. So long. Get out of here.
Jesus, yeah.
Right.
Man, we should have gotten that prenup. Should have gotten that prenup. Is all I'm saying.
Right.
You don't hear boo from her now.
No,
Not
no.
Well, she did write a book.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
When
Yeah,
did
yeah,
that
she
damn
did.
thing come out?
Yeah.
I'll
I
buy it
don't
and
have
burn
it.
it.
In France.
Oh man,
Um,
yeah. I'll just highlight all the parts where I'm like bull, bull. It's gonna
well,
be like
well,
all highlighted.
yeah.
When did the
Did
book
you
come out?
I don't have it, so I don't know, but I do
I don't
know
have it
that
either. I
yeah.
no.
Yeah, I do know that she did write a book and
Yeah. It was kind of
maybe
like
I'll
a memoir, I guess, kind of like her whole life
right.
and all that.
Yeah.
So
Right.
How
yeah.
I
But then
lucked
again,
into
yeah,
16
she
and a
was
half
in the
billion pounds. Got it.
right. But yeah, she was in the media a lot. I mean, she got scrutinized by the media a lot. I mean, she did sue and she did win money from the media as well. I think she did have a legal battle against Piers Morgan as
Yeah,
well.
she like
You know,
sued the Sun and like all these like
right.
big sort of like
Well, they are
publications.
always
Yeah.
getting sued.
Yeah, they're all kind of yeah, exactly.
Ask Elton. Elton sued the Sun more times as you can shake a stick at it.
Well, that's funny.
Yeah, I feel like they have
That's
a
funny.
lawyer just for all like the lawsuits they get, like a
Right.
specific lawyer just for celebrity lawsuits.
Yeah.
Right. Funny thing is though with this is Heather's born in '68. Right as Paul is like, I mean, he's at his height as a bachelor, probably I would say
Yeah,
in '68. We talked about that in the first episode of this series. Where Paul is just, I mean, he's wheeling and dealing. I mean, he's out there playboying it up, and
yep.
then here it is, and he's what 25 at the time, and now he's with a woman 25 her his junior so
Wow.
it's
Yeah.
yeah.
I never really.
Yeah,
I mean, like I knew they had an age difference, but when you really think about it,
right,
25
right,
years is a long time.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then we don't want to forget that they do have a child together, Beatrice,
Yeah.
obviously. Beatrice born in October 2003. I did read that she did suffer a miscarriage in 2002. So
Yeah, she did
yeah, yeah,
before
yeah,
she did suffer a miscarriage, and that was like a
right.
really big sort of moment in her life, I believe. Yeah.
Hmm. Right. So yeah, okay, that's Heather. um, you listen. We could go on and on and
Bye,
on, and
Felicia.
say, yeah,
Yeah, but we all know how it ended. It did not.
right, exactly, yeah.
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 So
I will say though, it's I think the media scrutiny is hard on anyone, even if you were sort of like the quote unquote like not the
hmm
good one in all this. But I
right,
think the media scrutiny, it's hard on anyone. So I guess I
right,
give her props for like not dealing with it, or I guess like kind of ignoring it all these
hmm
years, because I mean she could still be talking about Paul, and I guess she stopped
right,
because you know what's the
Well,
point,
listen,
right?
you have a child together.
They
It's, I
have a
mean,
child
you
together.
need
Yeah,
to find a happy medium between the two. You
Yeah.
just can't keep, when
absolutely.
a child's involved, you just don't want. Hey, listen, I mean, I was involved in a broken home. I know what it's like for the mom and dad to bicker back and forth all the
I
time.
hear you. I know that.
Yeah,
I know that too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's
No,
not fun, especially when you're
it's
a
not.
child. It's
Yeah,
not fun at all.
it's not.
So
And that's why I'm like, oh, Paul and Linda, like the goal.
right.
If there was.
Right. But speaking of a goal, we feel like now this relationship that he's in now is probably going to be it, right? We're talking
Yeah,
about Nancy Shevell. Here, born, okay, another one that's a little younger than Paul, born in 59. Oddly enough, or funny enough, cousin to Barbara Walters,
yeah,
which I thought was kind of interesting. She's also Jewish. She's also a breast cancer survivor.
yeah.
So again, little similarities between her and Linda. She went to Arizona State University as well, like Linda.
Which is
So
so interesting. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
she
It's all the
knows. Yeah,
similarities.
yeah. She knows Paul and Linda from a previous, like her is Heather as well, and Linda. She's married and divorced. So that's that's a continuation as well.
Yeah,
So and and she knows them from her previous marriage from being in the Hamptons. So I
yeah.
mean, obviously there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, no, I mean, they were friends before, and
Right,
I think the best relationships can, start from a friendship. So,
right,
I
right.
think Paul was probably like at a point in his life where I don't even think he was looking, obviously,
Right,
honestly,
No,
he was just it
right,
just happened,
like
and it
whatever,
was just
which is
right,
kind
yeah,
of how it was with Linda.
yeah,
right,
yeah. It was just this woman who he had known, but he finally started looking at her in a different way, and
right,
it was like destiny, really, I think,
right,
in a lot of
right,
ways.
right. Exactly.
And
Now,
she has money herself, which, we need to
yes,
state. She has money
yes.
Yes.
herself.
She's
Yep.
done
She
very well for herself. I mean, she
Yes.
was a VP in a family-owned business
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well, so she's done well. She was married first to a lawyer, Bruce Blakeman, and obviously we know that didn't last. Funny enough, they
She
started
also
dating. I think while they were separated, Nancy was separated from her husband, and it was Barbara Walters that kind of played matchmaker
Yeah,
between the
she played
two.
matchmaker, and
Yeah.
she kept trying to get them, like, in the room together, which is, like,
Right.
hilarious, because she knew that Paul was alone, and then, like, she knew Nancy was, kind of
Right.
still sad, but, she's like, this might cheer them up together, and, I don't know, maybe she didn't know it was gonna be as serious as it was, but, it turned out for the best in a
a
lot of ways,
very
so,
yeah,
yeah.
very independent woman, very accomplished woman. I mean,
Yes.
she was on the
Yes.
board of the MTA in New York
Mm.
City.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
because her father, I believe her father was, like, the head of, like, this, like, the company or whatever it was, but, yeah, like, so she's kind of like an heiress, I guess you could
In a
say,
way,
quote,
yeah.
unquote. Yeah, yeah, so
Yeah.
she comes from money, but, she didn't from all accounts, people have said that she's a very private person, she never wanted any publicity, she likes music, but she's not like this person that's like, "I'm gonna be a musician, I'm gonna do this."
Yeah.
She's
Right.
so private about everything.
Paul's not going to ask her to be in a band.
No.
Never,
Probably.
never. He would
No.
never do that, and she would say no, she would be like
Right.
flat out no,
Right.
but that's like I think that's the best thing about her is she doesn't feel the need to put their relationship on display, and I respect her for that so much, so,
Mm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm so happy
Yeah.
that he found her, in the midst
Right.
of all the craziness.
Right. Paul has said he fell in love with her while on the dance floor. I mean, it's
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Reading these last couple articles, I mean, I didn't really realize that he was such a big dance person.
Yeah, neither did I.
Myself. So, that's one of the ways I guess they go out. They go dancing. I guess him and Ringo and Barbara they went out dancing not too long ago. So hey, whatever you got to do to keep that flame going. If you go
Absolutely,
dancing's it, go ahead
absolutely.
and dance.
Yeah,
Engaged in October 9th of 2011. Big day there, October 9th. Married, same place that Paul and Linda got married. Which
yeah. And was it on John's birthday? Correct me if I'm wrong, or am
no,
I
I think the engagement was.
the engagement was? Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But I
Marylebone.
Mary LeBone, it's just like, okay, does Paul bring that up? Does Nancy bring that up? I mean, how does that, enter the picture? Hey, do you mind if we get married at here? You know,
I get the feeling she brought it up. She
mm,
probably thought, like a little tribute to Linda because, they were all friends. So,
right.
she probably thought,
No,
like,
I'm sorry, Tom. They
yeah,
were married on October 9th.
Oh, okay. Then what
yeah.
I got was wrong. Okay, thank
They
you
were
for that. Cool.
Yeah,
I thought they
yeah.
were engaged on October 9th, but thank you.
married
Yes.
on the 9th of
Yeah.
October,
On John's
2011.
birthday,
Right.
which is
On
really
John's
significant as
birthday.
well.
Right.
Again, these things
Yes.
aren't coincidences, people. Like
Right.
this is
No.
They're not.
No. 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 I mean, and again, and you see these two together a lot. I
Yes.
mean, there was that that gun rally in New York. Was it
Yep.
early? Was it last year or a couple
Last
years
year,
ago?
might have been
Yeah.
2019, I think maybe. And
Maybe,
yeah,
2019.
yeah, and
pre-COVID,
they're not,
pre-COVID,
yeah, pre-COVID, and they're talking about, Paul's talking about how he lost his friend to,
a couple blocks away.
Gun
yeah, a couple blocks
violence, yeah.
away.
Mhm,
Yeah, so
yeah.
you see them in pictures in the Hamptons, vacationing all the time, on boats, having a great time. So, yeah, I absolutely think that this one
Yeah, I
is
mean
going to last.
he's in the
Yeah,
Mhm.
twilight of his years here, and
right.
he's very content and happy. And you could see that when you watch any interview with him. I mean, even the one I watched this morning of the Barnes and Noble one on the book, he's just so relaxed, so at peace, so happy and content,
Hmm.
which is what anybody wants for him. That's all anybody
Right.
wants.
Yeah. It's so great to like know that, after the craziness of the Mills debacle, it's like, he found someone who, like I say, he didn't expect. I really believe that. And then it just, like,
Because he's like he just looks the way he's supposed to. Like he's
yeah.
older, he's almost 80. He's letting the gray come. He's letting
Right.
his beard show. Like when he was with
Yeah.
her, when he was with the aforementioned nut job, he had
Right.
to like she like his hair was all dyed. It was just it didn't look
He had to be young again,
it
but
didn't
like,
look
Right.
it didn't look.
Yes.
But coming out of like after Flaming Pie and like aging gracefully and his hair was like going gray then. And then
yeah,
to
Right.
like look like to try to make yourself look like you're 25 and 30 when you're 64.
it's,
Just
Mm,
yeah, it doesn't work.
yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
work.
no,
No.
Trust me.
no. So you look at him
No.
now, and it's like he's the way he's supposed to be. And if
Yeah.
Nancy is has a lot to do with that, then good for her.
Right.
Yeah. I think she's like a very calming influence on, the
Right.
on Paul McCartney now. So it's wonderful to see, and I love My Valentine. I love that song. I think it's such a beautiful song that he
Yeah.
wrote for her. It's just so
Well,
sweet.
it is sweet. Unfortunately, that's the bathroom song for his shows.
It is, but it's sweet. It's
Right.
sweet.
So let's do you plan on doing a show on Heather
I will,
on
because
your
we're talking
yeah
about everybody that was in
yeah
these boys'
Luck,
lives. So
Talia, on that one. I don't, how are you gonna keep yourself fair and balanced on that?
I try, that was sort of my Yoko episode was another one I was kind of I had to figure out what I was going to really say. And then I
hmm
realized like, I think my show it's truly about highlighting these women's experiences. And while they were with these men, it's really about them as well.
right
So I think I will try to obviously see the good in Heather, even if I know there
right
is a lot of shit on her because
right
there is.
right
But I'm gonna try and just, like I'll talk about her activism, and I will definitely like make a point that she does donate a lot of money and she does
hmm
like help these causes. But I'm gonna keep it honest though, and say that
absolutely yeah
throughout
you
it
have to
all
right
there was this, like big problem with money that it seems that like she just wanted more and more, and
yeah
I'm gonna definitely talk about that because Andy, you brought up such good points. The fact that Paul was just not himself a lot of the time with
hmm
when he was with her, and that's something that I definitely will talk about. But I'll keep it civil as
You'll
much as
keep
I
it
can,
civil. You'll
obviously.
keep it
Yeah,
right
civil.
but I will try to highlight the good things she's did because
there
there are
yeah
good things, even if
there, right.
crazy.
There's
But
Hey,
yeah,
and you know what? To say what you want about that relationship, that there's a child out of it, and okay,
right
absolutely.
and there's a child out of that relationship, and one that that's something that they have to both of them have to live with, and to
Yeah,
make sure that the child is taken care of, no matter how
absolutely.
good or bad that relationship ended. I mean, there's a child to be looked after now, and
Yeah,
mm,
that's
and
at the end of the game. Yeah.
that's life. You go through experiences. You kind of learn lessons out of all of it. So I think Paul is the wiser for it. Because he
Yep.
knows now. Like I'm
right.
totally content. So yeah.
There was a photo that came out of Paul right around the release of McCartney 3 where you saw an image behind him and it looked like it was Heather Mills. I don't know if you remember this, Andy, or not, but
Yes,
yes. So, you would imagine with that photo that there's some kind of, common ground now. There's some kind of happy medium to where
I'm
they
sure.
can actually, be in the same room together now,
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think in private is definitely a different
Right.
relationship to what, probably the public knows and in interviews and stuff.
Right.
And
Right.
she is Beatrice's mother, so it's
Right.
sort of that, she's always going to be Beatrice's mother, and they're
Correct.
always going to have a relationship even if it's
Right.
not a married one, right,
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Right. So what
definitely.
else? What else you got coming up with your show? She loves you. Tell us a little bit more
Well,
about that.
I got an interview with Patricia Gate. Ugh, I can never say her name, but Patricia Stanman, who wrote Diary of a Beatlemaniac, which is a great book,
Okay.
and it's sort of her experiences as a young Beatles fan in the '60s and what
Mm,
it's like to come up with schemes to meet them and all that. So I have her on the podcast, and I'm going to put up that episode on Monday actually, so it should be up.
okay.
But the next woman I got is I'm trying to think. Oh, Barbara. I'm going to talk about Barbara. So that
Oh,
should be
great.
interesting
Okay.
because I don't really know a lot about her. She's kind of the one girl I don't know much about. So I'm going to do
Mm-hmm.
Barbara. And then from then on, I'm going to do the girlfriends. So we're going to start with John's first girlfriend, and then
Right.
we'll go on from there and we'll and more interviews in between, with like interesting people that I,
Excellent.
found and all that. So,
Right.
we're just going to take it. And then I think after the girlfriends, I'll do like the alleged
The
affairs. Yeah,
flings.
yeah, the flings, because
I
John's
mean,
got a lot of them, so I gotta get
yes. I
through the
mean,
list.
you have a lot to draw from. I mean, there
Yeah,
is 60 years, 60 years or
yeah,
so of these women that some played bigger roles than others, but there's
absolutely.
stuff to talk about.
Absolutely,
Or
and even, like, then I'll go on to the friends, like Astrid
right.
and, like, really important women in the
Good person
legislative
right there to
men,
do a show on.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
and then that was kind of something I was thinking about also. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what am I gonna do when I run out of women?" But
Right.
there's so many to talk about, I'm not gonna run
Oh,
You
out.
won't.
don't worry
You
about
won't.
that. You've got a couple years
Yeah.
still.
Yeah. Yeah, and, like, I'll talk about, like, with Patricia's interview, like, I'll talk about fans because,
Right.
those women are important, even though there were male fans.
Right.
Of course, there are male fans, but, I think, like, the women experience of being a Beatles fan
Right.
it was so important to the '60s, particularly with, like, because, we talked about this in the episode, and if you hear it, you'll
Mm.
hear what we say, but we talk about how the Beatles really were, like, the first kind of moment of women's liberation in that time,
Mm.
was the idea that these girls could finally, wear mini skirts and, listen
Right.
Mhm.
to Beatles and their parents would get mad, but they wouldn't care.
Mm.
So
Right.
it's topics like that we'll definitely cover, and
Right.
it's gonna be great. Yeah.
And plus, you got Beetle daughters to talk about as
Your
well.
daughters, yes, and that'll
Yes.
kind of come
Mm.
afterwards as well. Yeah,
Right.
You
my
got.
Yeah.
You have plenty. You have
Yeah, you're
plenty. You're
good.
you're
and
fine.
the mothers and the mothers.
And the mothers.
Oh,
Yes.
that could be a whole other thing. The mothers. Oh man,
Yeah,
that could be a
and
whole other series.
everybody, and like I'll talk
Yes.
about sisters and all that
Right.
too. So I've got a lot.
Ah, wow. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
kind of a little overwhelming when you think about it. If
it
when you put
is.
it
It
into
is.
a bigger picture,
It is.
it's just
But
like, do I have enough time for all of this?
I'm having so much fun though, so it's like
Right.
I love doing it. So it's just
That's
interesting
what
to
I love
learn.
hearing. Yeah, I love hearing
Yeah.
how much fun you're having doing this because I'm kind of seeing you as when I first started doing this back in 2016, how much it was just, just fun doing it. And it
Yeah,
still is fun. And I hope it still remains fun for you, years to come. I mean, there's
yeah.
going to be some overwhelming moments here and there,
I
but
know
you'll
there will
you'll
be.
see,
Yeah.
Pat, but
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 I think
thank you.
yeah, I think
Oh,
what
go
I'm
ahead.
gonna do though is like I don't think I'll do it on each mother. I'll kind of do a whole
Right.
episode about mothers, to
Oh,
kind of
okay.
shorten
Right.
it just
Right.
because
Right.
it's kind of hard, I think, to do it specifically on each of them, but I think I'll do all of the mothers,
You
and
Right.
could. You could do.
I'll
You could
definitely
do
have
one.
more info on more than others, but
Right.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, there's a lot more about John's mom than say
right,
George's
Right.
mom,
right,
or
Right.
Ringo's mom. So
absolutely, yeah, 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 definitely.
Mm. Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for this. I just had a great time talking with
Oh,
you. I mean, you're an inspiration. I'm just so glad there's more women coming into these this podcasting world as well. It's definitely a great welcome to see, the younger people, too. So, carrying that torch in a way because, we got the generation before us, and us, and then now, kind of like you and Ethan and some of the
Yeah.
younger ones out there, they're going to continue the torch going. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to everything that you're going to be doing in the future. And
Oh,
I
thank
love your
you.
show. It's great. And
Um,
please listen. How can they find your show?
Okay, so right now I'm currently on Spotify. If any of you have Spotify, but I'm also on Apple Podcasts.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out how I can get to more platforms, and that's kind of like
Mm.
all as if something changes, I will let everybody know. But for now, that's sort of where I am: Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And I'm trying
Mm.
to see if I could maybe do like YouTube as well, just to upload them, the audio,
Do it.
video on,
Yes.
because I know people can't access
Right.
Spotify, and some people don't have Apple Podcasts,
Right.
so maybe I'm trying to kind of figure out how that's going to work. But for now, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I have an Instagram called She Loves You
Yep.
Podcast, and that's kind of where I post updates. And you know, um, if any of your guests maybe want to be like guests on my podcast, that'd be great, as well. So we'll see. And yeah, so you can find me all on that. And yeah.
Cool. Excellent.
Mhm.
And you also got the Cynthia Lennon
Yes,
Instagram
I
as
also
well.
run Cynthia Lennon Daily, which is a fan page dedicated to the memory of Cynthia Lennon, her legacy, her life with John, as well as just like her art in general.
Hmm.
If y'all don't know, she's my favorite Beatle girl. I've said this millions of times
Right.
everywhere, but for people that don't know, she's my favorite.
You and Jude Kessler.
Oh, I love Jude so much. I met her at the fest in 2019,
Uh,
and
nice.
she signed my book, and she's like, "Thanks." So funny, but she was like, "Thanks for everything you do for Cynthia." Oh, and John.
Nice.
It's so funny, but
Nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's great. But yes, I do run Cynthia Lennon Daily, and yeah, it's just a page that, because I think she was an incredible lady, and
Hmm.
she needs to be talked about more, and especially in Beatles history, I always say when it comes to it, just because people tend to forget about her a lot. So
Right.
I really kind of wanted that page to just remember her by. And yeah. So I run that as well if y'all want to follow that on Instagram.
Right.
But yeah.
Great. Excellent. Thank you.
Mhm.
Andy, anything you want to contribute before we sign off?
No, just thanks again for so Natalia is hearing the interesting fresh perspectives, especially younger ones, and just to tackle a subject area that is grossly overlooked. And good on you for doing that. And
Oh, thank you.
Mm.
appreciate that. And that's about it.
All
All
right.
right.
Thank
Well,
you so much, you
as
guys.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
as
we had a lot of fun.
so much fun this was, absolutely. You can find us Two Legs at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Two Legs Podcast. Email us at twolegspodcast@gmail.com. There's the website, twolegspodcast.com. Check us out on our YouTube channel, where you're going to see our bright smiley faces right now, and talking about everything that we love, this person that we love so much, Paul McCartney. So it's Two Legs, a Paul McCartney podcast. That's the video aspect of it. The audio aspect of it, where Andy got us, what we're with Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Apple. I mean,
Amazon,
Amazon, you name it. We're there. So all you gotta
Pandora.
do is, yeah, Pandora. Thank you. Just
Dang,
type in,
Pandora.
yeah, just type in Two Legs Podcast, and I'm sure you'll find us somewhere. So, Andy, thanks again for all that you do. Natalia, you got a great podcasting career in front of you. I'm looking
Oh,
forward
thank
to
you.
more. And so for Andy, Natalia, I'm Tom, and as always, everybody out there, have a great day and a beautiful night. Take
Oh,
care, everyone.
bye.